Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with knowledge partners NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, CEO of Boardroom Resources, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. Once again, we're here on a remote in Nashville at Lipscomb University at the Dean Institute for Corporate Governance and Integrity. And it's a pleasure to be here in Nashville to be able to meet with some significant companies that are part of our fabric of the American economy. And certainly we have one of those with us today. And we're going to be talking about board communications with the CEO. And let me introduce my guest that'll help me cover that topic today. To my immediate right is Charles Overby, who's the chairman of the Nominating and Governance Committee for the Corrections Corporation of America. Welcome, Charles.
Hello.
And to his right is Damon Henninger, who's the president and CEO of the Corrections Corporation of America. And Damon, welcome as well.
Thank you, TK. Thanks for having us.
So I think maybe the first thing we need to do is sort of let the world know what the Corrections Corporation of America is. So Damon, take a minute and just explain exactly what you guys do.
Absolutely. So we were founded and are based here in Nashville, Tennessee. We started the company back in 1983, and we're the largest owner of private correctional beds in the United States. So we own and operate facilities all over the U.S., doing work in 20 states. We have about 15,000 employees, and about half our business with the state governments, which is about 12 states that we do business today with. And then the other half is with the federal government. But our solution is to own and operate facilities for all levels of government, federal, state, and local, help them with the capital avoidance by owning the real estate, but also provide the services. And
get some of those changeable characters back into society, I would assume.
Absolutely. Put a lot of emphasis on reentry, do a lot of programs, helping individuals who maybe don't have a high school diploma get a GED or get a certification through a vocational trade.
Well, we know it's important, and so we'll be anxious to hear more about that in future times. But Charles, we're here to talk about a little bit about communications with the CEO, and you head the NomGov committee, in that role, I believe I'm correct, that you also chair the executive sessions.
Correct.
So this is always a question that we get about how people handle their executive sessions. So can you talk a little bit about how you guys handle that? And then after an executive session, whether that's before the meeting, after the meeting, people are curious about too, what kind of communication then happens with Damon as far as what comes out of that session?
Well, we're fortunate to have good communication all the time with the CEO. Every board member, I believe, feels comfortable about picking up the phone and talking to Damon and speaking his or her mind. But we allow time at the end of every board meeting for executive session just with the independent board members. And we have a time then to reflect on anything that's been said during the meeting, any things that maybe we didn't expect, or maybe we did expect but wanted a little more information on. And it's not real formal, but it's time that we know we're going to have, that it guarantees our ability to talk just among ourselves. And then after those executive sessions, I will sit down with Damon and talk about anything that might have come up to communicate to him fully. And then the other board members are free also to call and add their nuances to whatever the conversation might have been. But we know because of that time every session that we're going to be able to speak our minds among just board members or with Damon when he's in the room.
Yeah, having an organization that has that open line of communication, I think, is the most important thing that you can have. And obviously there's companies that aren't as comfortable, or CEOs that aren't as comfortable with that, but I think that's probably pretty critical. It's interesting that some companies have gone to having a executive session prior to the meeting and one at the close of the meeting. The reason they added that is because some people have been having to leave to catch airplanes or things like that, and some of the directors were getting frustrated.
Well, we do sometimes change hours. If we know we have a couple of directors who have tight plane connections, then we'll do it, say, in the middle of the meeting.
Right, that's great, that's great. But I think the most important thing about what you said is the open line of communication. I mean, that solves a lot of that when a director and a CEO feel comfortable about talking, sort of out of the boardroom.
Our executive sessions, is rare that we talk about anything that we haven't already said to Damon in the room, but we might have some more nuances or a little bit more color to it when we're in the private session.
Yeah. And Damon, when you assume the role, knowing that you're a guy that likes these communications, I assume you went to the directors and asked them what their expectations were of as far as communicating with you.
Absolutely, and very good discussions early on, and really, to Charles' point, continue to this day. And great feedback not only from Charles from the executive sessions, but I realize I'm human and I've got blind spots and things that maybe are not evident to me that directors pick up on or want me to be focused in on. And so not only that feedback, but also little things that I've tried to do, for example, to get more feedback on just issues, again, that maybe in my blind spot. About 2 weeks before the board meeting, I'll have a chairman's meeting with the board chair and all the committee chairs. We'll go through a run through of the agenda and just try to talk through kind of anything that I need to be sensitive to, or kind of at least have them heighten the awareness of a certain topic that I need to focus on during the actual board meeting itself.
Damon's terrific about that. He's younger than any board member. He's a young CEO, and he takes counsel from us older guys very well.
Notice the big smile on his face. Counsel is a good word, though.
Absolutely.
So, Charles, let's talk about something else. One of the things that is getting a lot of attention these days is board evaluations. And, there's a great theory out there that if companies do good board evaluations, there really isn't a need for age or tenure or term limits or anything like that, because you're able internally to identify who contributes, to the board or who might need to be replaced. We know that replacing directors is never very easy, okay? But one of the responsibilities of board leadership is to recognize when maybe somebody isn't contributing or somebody, could contribute more in that thing. Never easy, it's all part of board leadership. Talk a little bit about your board evaluation process, and then Damon, I'd be curious to hear about how you use it as well. So Charles, I'll start with you.
Well, we do an annual board evaluation. Every single board member evaluates himself or herself along with the whole board and our processes that are used as part of our board meetings. And we found that to be helpful. Sometimes things come out that wouldn't necessarily be stated in a board meeting. It might be a small thing or it might be a larger thing. And all of those evaluations then are looked at by the Nominating Governance Committee. And that helps us understand both the level of commitment of each director and their abilities, but also good insights into what we're doing as a board or as different committees, what we're doing well or what we could improve on.
Charles, do you do that internally and run that as the head of the NomGov, or does general counsel do it? Do you bring in a third party? How do you manage that part of the process?
We work with the legal counsel's office. They help compile it, and then I oversee that as the chairman of the Nomination Governance Committee. But it is not separate and apart from the management staff. We could go to that, but we've never found a reason to do that.
Yeah. Damon, how about you? This obviously is a tool for any company, and obviously it's first a tool for board leadership to do that, but as we all know, CEOs are an integral part of everything that happens, whether it's in the company or the boardroom. How do you use the board evaluation?
Well, first I'd say to all the Charles points, I think we've got a very, very good process, and we've got a group of directors that are very comfortable and confident to express their views through that instrument that we do every spring. And so what I do after Charles reports on it in the Nominating Governance Committee is that I go through it, especially the written comments, which I find very, very valuable, and then I sit down with the management team to determine, okay, what tweaks or changes can we do based on those comments. Some of it may be reports from the management team, or maybe just on how I'm reporting on certain topics, or wishing more topics would be discussed in upcoming board meetings. But I take it hard, and then I typically carry it with me for about 6 months after that meeting, just for the next couple of board meetings, making sure we're incorporating some of those changes.
Yeah, there's always a humorous joke that goes around by directors that they die of death by PowerPoint, where, division presentations, sometimes can really slay a board meeting. But so those are all things that I assume feedback comes from the evaluation about the process. Then you try and tweak that to make sure you have the most effective meeting as possible.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
We really cut down on the PowerPoints, and the evaluations had a big thing to do about that.
Yeah. Well, there's a perfect example of how they work to improve the process. Charles and Damon, I wanted to thank you. It's, again, a pleasure to be in Nashville. It's a pleasure to have you guys take time out of your busy schedules to come join us, and we appreciate that. So thanks for being
very
here.
much, TK.
Thank you.
So that will conclude another session of Inside America's Boardroom. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week where we take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC, along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.